Man, the amount of fitness advice out there is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Everywhere you turn, there's a new must-do exercise or some food you should never eat.
It really is.
It's like, how do you separate the truth from all the hype,
Exactly. And that's why we're doing this deep dive today.
Right. A listener sent in this YouTube video from the Jesse James West channel.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Busting Every Fitness Myth in 24 Hours. Foot Jeff Nippard.
Great video. Really interesting.
Yeah, and it's basically these two guys tackling all sorts of fitness myths across different categories.
And they really do try to cover a lot of ground.
They do. Our mission is to pull out the most valuable and maybe even surprising things they uncovered.
Yes, give our listener like a distilled version of the key takeaways so they can be more informed without having to spend hours watching videos.
Exactly. So they start off with this category about morning routines and body fat.
Okay.
And they confirm something that I think a lot of people probably already assume is true. Men generally have higher testosterone in the morning.
Yeah, not a huge surprise there.
Not a shock, right. But then they jump into this myth that I think is really important to debunk. Low body fat equals healthy.
Right, and this is where things get a little more nuanced.
Yeah.
Because what's fascinating is they didn't just say it's a myth. They actually tried to demonstrate the difficulty of measuring body fat accurately with those like at-home devices.
Yeah, they pulled out the scale and everything.
Yeah, and they highlighted that margin of error, right? Like 5 to 10%.
Oh, it's huge.
Which I think is a really good point. Like, you can't just rely on those numbers alone. And more importantly, they emphasize that health isn't just about being lean. Both very high and very low body fat can actually have negative consequences.
Yeah.
And they even brought up mental health, which I think is often overlooked in these conversations about body composition.
Totally.
Yeah.
We often fixate on just that physical appearance, and we forget about the whole picture. So it's a good reminder for you, the listener, that chasing an extremely low number on a scale, that shouldn't be your ultimate goal. It's more about focusing on sustainable, healthy habits, a balanced diet, and feeling good both physically and mentally, right?
Absolutely.
That's so key. Okay, and sticking with the theme of metrics, they address this frustration of the scale not moving. That feeling of, if the number isn't going down, I must not be losing weight.
Oh, I know that feeling well.
Right.
I think a lot of us have been there.
Myth busted, though.
Myth busted. And this is where I think it's so important to understand what they explain, which is that your weight is actually a result of so many different things happening in your body at once. You could be gaining muscle while losing fat, or vice versa. You have fluctuations in water weight. They even mention this swoosh effect that some women experience where, like, water retention can temporarily mask fat loss.
The dreaded swoosh.
Ew.
Yeah. It's so easy to get discouraged when the number on the scale doesn't budge. But this is such a good reminder that the scale is only giving you one tiny little piece of a much bigger picture.
It really is. It's just one data point.
Exactly. So don't get too hung up on those short-term fluctuations.
Right.
Focus on the long game. Okay, let's move on to something that has been debated in the fitness world for, I feel like, forever. Fasted cardio.
Yeah, that's a hot topic.
The myth. Working out on an empty stomach burns more calories. I know so many people who swear by their fasted morning workouts.
Oh, for sure. And what's interesting here is the nuance that they uncover.
Yeah, it's not a simple yes or no.
Exactly. While it's true that when you do cardio in a fasted state, your body might burn a higher percentage of calories from fat during that session, your body's incredibly adaptive.
Right, our bodies are smart.
They are. And over the course of the whole day, it will likely compensate by burning less fat later on.
Really?
So the net effect on overall fat loss isn't significantly different compared to doing cardio after eating.
Interesting. So it kind of evens out.
Yeah, it seems that way. And they even mention that long-term studies support this.
Okay, so what you're saying is, if I'm diligently doing my fasted cardio, hoping for some magical fat-burning advantage, it's probably not making a huge difference.
Well, the timing of your workout around meals seems less critical than just being in an overall calorie deficit.
That makes sense. Okay, let's switch gears and talk nutrition and some of these popular biohacks that are going around.
Okay, sounds good.
First up, the idea that all calories are created equal.
Oh, this is a classic.
I think most of us probably have a feeling this isn't totally true, but they really break it down.
They do. And I really appreciated their balanced approach here because they kind of called it half myth, half true.
Interesting.
So from a purely thermodynamic standpoint, right, like basic energy accounting calories in, calories out, 110 calories from a sugary candy will indeed provide the same amount of energy as 110 calories from an apple.
Okay, that makes sense.
But where they busted the myth is when you consider overall health and how satisfied you feel after eating.
Right, because an apple and a handful of candy, those are very different things.
They are very different. That apple is packed with vitamins, minerals, fiber that help you feel full and actually reduce the likelihood of overeating.
Yeah.
The candy, not so much.
Not really. So, practically speaking, for the listener, this means that enjoying those occasional treats within your calorie goals probably won't totally derail your weight loss.
Right.
But prioritizing nutrient-dense foods is crucial for long-term health and managing your hunger.
I think that's a really good takeaway.
Okay, next, they tackle this classic image that we've all seen in movies. Eating raw eggs for muscle growth.
Oh yeah, the Rocky montage.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been a little wary of that one, honestly.
As you should be.
And they explain why.
Yeah. And it's fascinating the science behind how our bodies actually process protein. Cooking eggs denatures the proteins. Think of it like gently untangling a ball of yarn to make it easier to use, you know?
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Which makes them about 30% more digestible and absorbable by your body.
Wow. So all those movie scenes of guys chugging raw eggs for games, not exactly the most efficient way to get protein.
Not quite.
Interesting. Okay, moving on to another popular trend. Greens powders.
Oh, yeah.
Can these powdered mixes really replace eating actual vegetables? This is a question I get a lot.
It is. And it makes sense why people are curious. Their take was pretty clear. Myth busted. Yeah. While greens powders can provide some vitamins and minerals, they can't replicate the full spectrum of benefits you get from eating whole vegetables. Things like fiber, a wider range of beneficial plant compounds called phytonutrients, better bioavailability, and the feeling of fullness you get from, chewing and digesting real food.
Okay.
All those are missing in powdered form.
Okay, so it's more like an emergency backup, not a replacement.
Exactly, like an insurance policy.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one, I have to admit, made me cringe a little bit because I've seen people do this at the gym. Dry scooping pre-workout.
Oh, no.
The myth, is it actually bad? Yeah, they say it is.
It's a bad idea, and they give some pretty serious reasons. The immediate risk, right, is choking or accidentally inhaling that powder straight into your lungs.
It just sounds unpleasant.
Really unpleasant.
Potentially dangerous, too.
Yeah. They also mention that it's probably less effective for achieving the pump, which is why a lot of people take pre-workout.
Oh, interesting.
You'll still absorb the caffeine, but it's just not a recommended practice.
Yeah, I'll stick to mixing it with water, thanks. Okay, last one in this nutrition and biohacking category, BCAAs, those branched-chain amino acids.
Right.
Do they offer unique benefits compared to just using regular protein powder?
There's a lot of hype around BCAAs.
For sure. So what's the verdict?
Well, they explain the fundamental science of how our bodies build muscle. And BCAAs are only 3 of the 9 essential amino acids that your body actually needs. A complete protein source, like whey protein, contains all 9. So if you're already getting enough protein, adding BCAAs on top doesn't really provide any unique muscle-building advantages.
Okay, myth busted for offering something special over regular protein if you're already getting enough protein overall.
Basically, yeah.
Let's move into the realm of supplements and recovery now.
Okay.
Starting with, more caffeine equals a better workout.
Yes. I think we've all tried that one.
Right, and I feel like there's definitely a point of diminishing returns with caffeine. Like too much and you're just jittery and can't focus.
Definitely. And they basically just say it's a myth. While caffeine in appropriate amounts can enhance your workout, simply loading up on excessive amounts doesn't necessarily lead to better results.
And you might just end up feeling awful.
Exactly.
Okay, next up, ice baths. This is another one that seems to have people on both sides.
Yeah, for sure.
The myth. Ice baths help you recover faster and build more muscle. So what do they say?
Well, it's nuanced, which I think their discussion reflected well.
Yeah.
They acknowledge the subjective benefits many people report, like feeling mentally sharp, getting a dopamine boost. However, when it comes to building muscle, the research they looked at actually suggests that prolonged exposure to cold temperatures can have a negative impact.
Interesting.
On the recovery side, there seems to be a slight benefit for reducing muscle soreness, but it's not a guaranteed fast track to recovery overall.
So maybe more for reducing discomfort than actually speeding up repair.
That seems to be the takeaway.
All right. Let's move on to a category that's all about protein. the building blocks of muscle.
Okay, the good stuff.
First up, the idea that you absolutely must eat protein within 30 minutes of finishing your workout.
Ah, yes, the anabolic window.
I've heard this rule preached for so long.
Yeah, it's been around forever. But thankfully, more recent research has debunked it.
So what's the real story?
Well, the presenters explained that the anabolic window, that period where your muscles are supposedly most receptive to protein, is actually much larger than 30 minutes. It's more like 5 hours, which includes both your pre- and post-workout meal.
Oh, wow, that's a much bigger window.
Yeah, so you don't need to stress about immediately chugging a protein shake after your last rep. Just aim to get sufficient protein within a few hours before or after your workout.
That's a relief to hear. Definitely takes some pressure off. Okay, another protein-related myth that I know used to scare some people is that protein powder causes kidney damage.
Yeah, it's a common concern, but the evidence really doesn't support it, at least for healthy individuals.
Okay.
They clarified that people with pre-existing kidney conditions do need to be careful with their protein intake. But for healthy people, protein powder itself does not cause kidney damage.
So no need to worry there. Another one about protein. The idea that your body can only absorb a certain amount of protein in 1 hour.
Right, like you hit this limit and the rest just goes to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that true? Well, their answer was partially true.
Mm.
There is definitely a limit to how quickly your body can utilize nutrients at any given time. So there's a ceiling on how much protein can be used for muscle protein synthesis in a short period.
But your body will eventually digest and absorb all the protein you consume.
So it's more about the rate of utilization, not a strict hourly absorption cap.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And finally, in the protein category, this myth that comes up all the time, creatine is a steroid.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with supplements make that assumption.
I could see how they might.
Yeah, but they really emphasize that it's a misunderstanding. Creatine is a naturally occurring substance found in foods like meat. It functions more like a nutrient or even similar to protein.
Okay.
Steroids are synthetic drugs.
Totally different.
Totally different. And they really wanted to clear up this myth because creatine is a very well-researched and generally safe supplement that can be effective for enhancing performance.
Awesome. Okay, let's step into the gym now and talk about training itself, starting with warm-ups and cardio.
All right, let's go.
So, first up, the idea that there's a single optimal time of day to work out for everyone.
Right, like you have to train in the morning to maximize your gains.
Exactly. But is that actually true?
Not at all. They were very clear that it's a myth.
Good news.
Yeah, the best time to train is simply whenever it fits best into your schedule and when you personally feel you have the most energy and focus.
That's so liberating to hear.
Right. It's about working with your body's natural rhythms.
I love that. Okay, what about stretching before a workout? I always thought that was non-negotiable.
Yeah, this is another area where the advice has evolved over time.
Yeah.
They explain that static stretching, where you hold a stretch for a sustained period, isn't the most effective way to prepare for weightlifting.
Really?
Yeah. Instead, they recommended dynamic stretching, things like leg swings, arm circles, along with some light cardio to warm up your muscles. Static stretching is better after your weight training.
Okay, that makes sense. Get the body moving first, then work on flexibility.
Yeah.
What about the order of things when it comes to cardio and weightlifting?
Cardio before or after weights?
That's the question.
Yeah.
What do they recommend?
Their advice was to generally do your cardio after lifting, especially if your primary goal is strength or muscle building,
Okay.
because doing cardio beforehand can deplete your glycogen stores, which are your body's primary energy source for intense activity, which can then reduce your performance during your weightlifting session.
Makes sense.
If your focus is on fat loss or endurance, then doing cardio after weights can be more effective.
Okay, that's a really helpful tip for optimizing your workouts based on your goals.
It is.
Finally, in the cardio realm, this idea that seems pretty straightforward. If you do more cardio, you'll lose more weight.
Yeah, that's the classic calories in, calories out thinking.
True or myth?
They said it's generally true, but with an important caveat. All else being equal.
Okay, meaning?
While diet and creating a calorie deficit are the most significant factors in weight loss, increasing the amount of calories you burn through cardio can definitely contribute to weight loss.
Yeah.
But this only holds true if you don't then compensate by eating more to make up for those burned calories.
You can't outtrain a bad diet, right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's get into some of the details of training volume and intensity in the weight room now.
Let's do it.
Starting with this myth. Machines are less effective than free weights for building muscle.
Yeah, That's a common one I hear.
A lot of people believe that, so what's the truth?
Well, the evidence doesn't really support it.
Interesting.
As long as you're pushing your sets with sufficient effort and intensity, studies have shown you can achieve similar levels of muscle growth using both machines and free weights.
So it's more about how you use them, not the equipment itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Each has its advantages. Machines are great for isolating specific muscles and can be safer for beginners.
Right.
While free weights engage more stabilizer muscles.
So it's good to have a mix of both.
It can be, depending on your goals.
Here's another one I've heard a lot. That the rep range of 6 to 12 is the magic zone for building muscle.
Oh, the classic hypertrophy range.
But is it really that specific?
No, they totally busted this myth. They explain that the rep range for muscle growth is actually much broader than that. It stands from about 3 reps all the way up to around 30, and sometimes even a bit higher.
Wow. That's a much bigger range than I thought.
It is. They said that going below 3 reps makes it hard to accumulate enough training volume, and going above 30 usually means your cardio system gives out before your muscles are truly challenged.
So there's a lot more flexibility than people might realize.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, what about the saying, no pain, no gain?
Oh yeah, another classic.
Does training to failure, where you literally can't do another rep, always lead to more muscle growth?
Well, it feels like it should.
It does.
But the research suggests it's not actually necessary.
Really?
Yeah, some studies show that training just 1 or 2 reps shy of failure can lead to similar gains.
So you don't need to completely destroy yourself every workout?
Not necessarily. Your training should be challenging, but you don't have to grind out every last rep to see results.
Good to know. Okay, here's a question about training frequency. Is training each muscle group only once a week less effective than doing it twice a week?
This one depends on your training experience.
Okay.
They said that for beginners, once a week can be enough to see good results.
Yeah.
But as you become more experienced, your muscles recover more quickly, and you need a higher training volume to keep making progress.
So you need to hit those muscles more often.
It can be beneficial. Spreading that volume across multiple sessions per week is often more effective than trying to cram it all into one long workout.
And I guess that helps prevent overtraining too.
Yeah, it helps you avoid doing so much in one session that it becomes less productive.
Now, this is a question I think a lot of people starting out with lifting have. Do you absolutely have to squat, bench press, and deadlift to build muscle?
Ah, yes, the big 3.
Those are often seen as the, foundation of any lifting program.
For sure, they're fantastic compound exercises that work multiple muscle groups.
But are they essential?
They're highly recommended, but not absolutely essential. They busted the myth that you have to do those specific lifts to build muscle. There are variations and alternative exercises that can target the same muscles just as well.
So if someone has an injury or just doesn't like those particular exercises, they still have options.
Absolutely. They don't need to feel limited.
Okay, good to know. We're almost to the end. A couple more miscellaneous training myths, and then a rapid-fire speed round.
Sounds good.
First up, can you actually lose fat and build muscle at the same time?
The holy grail of fitness.
It does seem almost too good to be true.
Right.
Is it possible?
Well, they said it is possible, but usually under specific circumstances.
Meaning?
It's most likely to occur for individuals who are new to weightlifting, those with a higher body fat percentage, and people who are detrained, like they've lifted in the past but took a break.
So for those starting out, it's more attainable?
It seems that way. For more experienced lifters, especially those with a low body fat percentage, it becomes much more challenging to do both significantly at the same time.
All right, that makes sense. Let's do the speed round now. Ready?
Bring it on.
Cardio kills your gains. Myth or true?
Myth, but too much can potentially interfere with maximizing muscle growth.
Okay, nuance there. The only reason to do cardio is to burn calories.
Myth or true? Myth, cardio has tons of other benefits for your heart, mood, overall well-being.
Walking isn't a real workout. Myth or true?
Myth, especially brisk walking. It has great mental and physical benefits.
Running is bad for your knees. Myth or true?
Generally a myth. For most people, running is fine for healthy knees.
If you sweat more, you're burning more calories. Myth or true?
Myth, sweating is for temperature regulation, not directly related to calorie burn.
Cardio is the only way to improve heart health. Myth or true?
Myth, lifting weights also significantly benefits cardiovascular health.
Lifting weights stunts your growth. Myth or true?
Total myth, no evidence to support that.
No pain, no gain. Myth or true?
Myth, Training should be challenging, not painful.
You need to rest exactly 60 seconds between sets. Myth or true?
Myth. Optimal rest time varies based on your goals and the exercise.
Squats are bad for your knees. Myth or true?
Myth. Properly done squats can actually strengthen knees.
Knees over toes is bad.
Myth or true? Generally a myth, usually safe with good form.
Training legs raises testosterone. Myth or true?
Generally true, though the effect varies between people.
Spot reduction is possible. Myth or true?
Myth. You can't choose where your body loses fat.
Training abs gets you a six-pack. Myth or true?
True, but visibility depends on body fat levels.
You can change your muscle shape with training. Myth or true?
Myth. Muscle growth mostly increases size. Shape is largely genetic.
Strength training is only for powerlifters. Myth or true?
Myth. Strength training benefits everyone, regardless of goals.
Longer workouts equal better results. Myth or true?
Myth. Quality over quantity.
Missing one workout ruins your progress. Myth or true?
Myth. Consistency matters more than individual sessions.
Work out, even when sick or injured. Myth or true?
Myth. Rest is crucial for recovery.
You need to be sore to build muscle. Myth or true?
Myth. Muscle growth happens regardless of soreness.
Wow. That was intense, but I think we covered a lot of ground there.
Definitely busted a lot of myths.
Okay, last category. Recovery. First up, the classic. You need 8 hours of sleep to build muscle.
Yeah, is that a hard and fast rule?
What do they say?
It's a myth, but 8 hours is definitely optimal. Sufficient sleep is crucial for recovery and muscle growth.
Okay,
Aim for around 7 to 9 hours.
got it. What about those nasal strips people wear for sleep? Do they really help?
They might improve airflow for some people, especially those with congestion or sleep apnea,
Okay.
but it's unlikely they have a profound impact on sleep quality or muscle recovery for most people.
And what about that trend of mouth taping during sleep?
They didn't have a strong opinion on that one, but it seems to be a bit overhyped right now.
Okay, last recovery myth. It's too late to start working out.
Oh, that's definitely a myth.
What do they say about that?
It is never too late to begin exercising. Your future self will thank you for it.
That's a great message. Okay, the grand finale. Jeff's personal myth, the one he really wanted to bust.
His big one was the idea that your training and diet need to be perfect to be effective.
Like 100% perfect, no slip-ups.
Exactly. And their conclusion was that it's simply not true. Consistency and effort are more important than striving for perfection. Progress can be made even with less than ideal execution.
That's a really empowering message.
It is.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener? It sounds like getting fit and healthy doesn't have to be this insanely complicated, stressful thing.
Right. It doesn't need to be about following rigid rules perfectly. So many of these myths can lead to unnecessary anxiety or have us chasing ineffective strategies.
Exactly. By understanding the fundamental principles like calorie balance, progressive overload, and by being aware of these common myths, you can make more informed choices.
And focus your energy on what really matters: consistency and effort.
As you continue on your fitness journey, think about any beliefs you might have held that were challenged by our myth-busting deep dive today. Maybe even do some more research. Look into the science behind these conclusions. It could free you up to enjoy the process of getting fitter and healthier a whole lot more.
And that's what it's all about.